my people, how you doing? I hope you're having a damn great day. Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be talking about Lazio and their new manager, Igor Tudor. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I might be mistaken. But just before we get any further on into this video, I just want to say a big thank you to all of you guys that commented, supported the videos, liked the videos, watched the videos last week whilst I was away. Of course, I was away and I had uploaded all those extra videos and stuff for you guys to enjoy whilst your boy was on vacation. Anyways, I'm back, I'm refreshed, and I'm ready to crack on with this Lazio side. Now, only 2 games have been played under the new manager, and in both those games, you could say they kind of played different formations. The first game, they played a 3-4-2-1 against Juventus, and they ended up winning. In the second game, they played against Juventus again and ended up losing 2-0. And if you have a look at like Google and all those other websites, it tells you that they played a 4-3-3. Now that's not true because, and I don't know if this is also to do with personnel, but they also have a few injury issues. But they shaped up in a 4-3-3 that would then morph into a 3-4-2-1 system, which is exactly why I've gone ahead, replicated and recreated the 3-4-2-1 system for you guys to go ahead and replicate into your game for a very successful, realistic set of tactics. If you guys don't mind hitting the subscribe button and the like button, please, that would be fantastic. And of course, I hope you guys do enjoy this video. Anyways, enough waffle, let's hop on straight into the goddamn video. Okay, so starting off with the formation at hand, I've selected a 3-4-2-1 and I've only really changed a few positions. More so, we've got a left midfielder and a right wing back. Now this is for Murasic as well as Sigagni. More so a winger and the other being a defender, and this does help with that shift and morphing into that back 4 system as well as that back 3 shape, and allows the wider midfielder to be a bit more involved higher up the field when required. I've also gone ahead and changed the 2 centre forwards into the left and the right attacking midfielder, as you'll see there just behind the striker, and I've also pushed the 2 central midfielders ever so slightly further down. So therefore, it would be 1 goalkeeper, 3 centre-backs, 2 central midfielders, 1 right wing-back, 1 left midfielder, 2 attacking midfielders, and then, of course, 1 striker. So, taking a look at the tactics. Now, the tactical vision that I think best reflects and replicates a very good, effective Tudor system is the kick and rush approach. Quite often, especially in last night's game, they were quite happy to go long, down the channels, whip that ball in over the top, try and exploit the space in behind, which is exactly why kick and rush suits their style of play. Not always looking to do it, they cannot try and play through the lines, keep the ball, create those little triangle passages of play, but there is always that willing runner in behind, whether it's the likes of Immobile or Sigagni. I know he was only on the field for like 20 minutes and then he got injured, and then Felipe Anderson switched to the left-hand side and they brought on Isaacson, who was fantastic. But the forwards will always look to make that run in behind. Of course, also trying to get the ball into the likes of, I forget his name, Luis Alberto, that's the one, as the chief creator, number 10. Of course, Isaacson also played in behind the striker at times, and also Felipe Anderson. But more so, it was Luis Alberto that was the guy who was putting the strings. So you want to try and get the ball into him as much as possible. Maybe you can whip in a few balls over the top for your willing runners in behind. As for the defense and the defensive style, I've selected pressure on heavy touch, looking to try and keep the shape and the structure of the team at hand, making it very hard to break down. And we did see a few times in last night's game, the communication in the backline wasn't the best, and it allowed Juventus to, exploit them, especially with that first goal that Chiesa scored. Bad communication, big gap down the middle, and he was able to exploit that space and obviously put the ball in the back of the net. But more so, I think that as time goes on, with more time with this manager, they'll become very good, very pragmatic, you could say, with their shape and structure and when it comes to pressing. Because they did press, yes, and they would aggressively press, and that goes hand in hand with the instructions, but more so the midfield area as well as the backline, not overly looking to step out too much and break the shape and the structure. As for the team width, however, I've kind of gone with a very mixed bag here, because I wasn't too sure if they were super compact or if they were very widespread. In the game last night, I would say it was a bit of both. They could compact in certain moments, especially if the ball got closer to their goal, or they would look to try and spread out, flare out a bit more, and trying to go with a more man-v-man type system. And I do think that a team width set to 40 allows you to replicate this very, very well. So when the ball's, in your danger area, you could say, you do see that the defenders compact quite well, forming that back 5 system as well, which is very, very nice. The depth, however, is set to 75. Now, before the goals were put on the back of the net, especially in the first half, the likes of Lazio were dominating Juventus quite well, quite effectively. And the three centre-backs / the back four system, if you want to call it that, they were inside the Juventus half. So I do think that when they're feeling confident, when they're stroking the ball around, when they're trying to find those little passages of play and pockets of space, they do tend to push nice and high field, which would require you to play with a high line. Now, I do think that this is a very pragmatic system, and they can look to shrink and also expand. So I've gone with the 75 depth, but you can adjust it accordingly to your opposition. Now, I would say don't go anywhere below maybe 55, because I do think that they will set up a mid-block more times than not against the better sides. And then against the lesser sides, you would look to try and, overwhelm them with the sheer amounts of pressure and waves of attack that you're looking to try and, release or use. Along those lines, you are trying to compact them every now and then. Anyways, moving on to the offense. The ball to play I've selected is long ball, as well as the chance creation I've selected is direct passing. Now, this goes hand in hand with the tactical vision, as I always say. But again, as I'll always say, you don't always have to play the long ball in behind. It just gives you options for certain runners to make those runs and trying to exploit the space in behind the opposition's back line. But like I say, it's not always a necessity. You don't always have to pump the ball long and play Tony Pulis, Stoke City, prime 2011, 2012, that era football. You don't always have to do that. You can, but you don't always have to. You can look to keep the ball on the ground, get it into your more creative players, and Luis Alberto, Isakson, Felipe Anderson, Sigagni, of course, looking to try and supply the striker as well. So they will be looking to make those willing runs in behind, yes, especially with the direct passing being set on, but they can also be very good and link up play very nicely higher up the field. So keep that in mind when using these tactics. As for the width, now I have set it to 70. There is a fine balance between how they tend to play, of course. Felipe Anderson, when he did switch over to the left-hand side, which was more of the left wing back in certain moments, but you would see him, drift inside, interchange nicely with the midfield. Obviously, it's very hard to do this, especially with the instructions. With certain instructions, it allowed the winger to cut inside more often and force Luis Alberto out wide. So I had to try, change and alter a few things. But I think a 70 allows the likes of Mirisic, as well as your left winger or your left midfielder, to have that very good balance of running down either flank. So 70 is what I would suggest you guys go with, or you can maybe look to try and stretch it a bit more. But I think 70 is optimal, if that makes sense. As for the players in the box, now, they did tend to overcrowd. I think once they went down to 2 goals, they didn't overcommit to too many players, but when they were feeling confident in the beginning of the game, they would look to try and overpack and stack in the box. So therefore, I think 7 should be the best option, allowing for at least 3 to 4 players to be able to break into the box, whether it's your wider midfielder or maybe even your right wing back, along with your 3 further forwards. As for the corners and the free kicks, as always, it is set to 4. Okay, now starting off at the back with the instructions for the goalkeeper. Now, I do know that Providel is out injured, but I have gone ahead and put him in the team, and I do think that these instructions would apply to all of the goalkeepers. So again, I've set it to balance. It doesn't really require too much. You don't require a sweeper keeper. I think that the likes of what Turdor is expecting is more of a traditional base goalkeeper, and therefore not overly running out of his box into no man's land looking to try and claim the ball. He can do it every now and then, especially if those balls are whipped in over the top. Every now and then you will see the goalkeeper make that extensive run out, but more so a balanced, more traditional base goalkeeper I think suits the system. The saving on crosses is also set to balanced. I just think it fits the style of play and how the actual goalkeepers that the likes of Lazio have. I think that's the best way to reflect a realistic aspect of their game. As for your 3 centre-backs, now we've got Romagnoli, we've got Casale, as well as Patrick. Now, I know that Giali starts on the left-hand side, and he's been, filling in as that left-back / left-sided centre-back. But I've gone with Patrick because I think that obviously overall-wise, he's slightly better. But all of them are set to the same set of instructions, and that is the base set of instructions. You don't really require too much from them. They provide a decent wall, a decent bit of protection in front of the goalkeeper. And there's no real alterations to it. As for the likes of Guendouzi and Vecino, now, Vecino is more of the DM of the two, with Guendouzi popping into the half spaces slightly deeper to try and help assist him with the build-up play, as well as the defensive outlet. But Vecino mainly rotates in the more central areas of the field, with Guendouzi rotating everywhere else. So for the role of the left-sided central midfielder, stay back while attacking, stay on the edge of the box, and this does help because if you do have it set to balanced, more times than not, you see the two central midfielders making that overlapping run of the attacking midfielders as well as the striker, which is definitely a no-no type thing to do for this system because it can break the structure in the midfield. So you want to tell them to stay on the edge of the box as well as stay back, and that helps him maintain the structural integrity of the central areas of the pitch. The interceptions is set to normal, and then of course cover the center and free run. This allows him, on the offensive end at least, to be able to pop up in the little half spaces all over the pitch, whether it's high up the field looking for that rotational pass or slightly deeper when they are looking to build out from the back. I did also note that the goalkeepers are implored to try and play out from the back, trying to play through the opposition press, trying to, put those balls in the central areas of the field, trying to get it into the likes of Vecino, Guendouzi, and Luis Alberto, just trying to make sure that they maintain possession as much as possible. As for the likes of Guendouzi, slightly more aggressive nature to his game. Of course, that's why aggressive interceptions are set to be on. But just like with the left side, the right-hand side as well, set to stay on the edge of the box as well as stay back while attacking. And then, of course, stick to position and then cover the wing. Now, I did note Guendouzi was on the left flank, the right flank. He was all over the place, often filling in for the likes of Mirisic when Mirisic would bomb forward. So you want him to try and cover that right-hand side as best as possible, making sure that he's trying to pick up the runners in that wider right space. But if the likes of Mirisic is there, he can also look to drift to the left-hand side and cover for the likes of Sagagni. Now, on the offensive end, I wanted to go with free roam, but again, like I always say, if you have too much free roaming in your midfield, it can break the structure, especially if you do turn the ball over. So I've gone with stick to position, but ideally, you do want both of them drifting all over the place, which I do think that Guendouzi more naturally does, depending on, obviously, his work rates and whatnot. But yes, stick to position for the likes of Guendouzi. So moving on to your right wing back. Now, for the positional awareness, okay, Sagagni, who's set to a left midfielder, is one space higher than Mirisic, who is set to a right wing back, which still allows you to have that nice alignment in your midfield as well as your defense in certain moments. But of course, Sagagni is nowhere near a left wing back or a wing back or a full back. He's more of a attacking midfielder, which is exactly why /winger, which is exactly why I've set him to that specific role and Mirisic to this one. So countless times last night, as well as in the first game, I didn't really watch much of the first game because I was away, but the bits that I did see, Mirisic was very frequently bombing up the right-hand side, whipping in crosses, looking to try and supply the forwards. I think it was Pedro, Castellanos, and I forget the other. I think it may have been Felipe Anderson as well, looking to try and supply them with crosses and good goal-scoring opportunities. So you still want to try and reflect, or no, not reflect, god damn it, replicate that role very effectively. And that is set to join the attack, overlap, and of course, step up. Now, I did see quite a lot last night that Mirisic would look to try and engage a lot with the opposition player, get nice and close to him even before he touched the ball. That way, he couldn't really spin him behind or turn into some space. He would look to try and get nice and close to him and minimize the space that that attacker had. As for the likes of Sagagni, or could have been Felipe Anderson, come back on defense. That is essential, absolutely essential that he does come back on defense, looking to form that back five system and formation when they are out of possession of the ball. And of course, like I said, Guendouzi will look to drift all over the place on a horizontal plane, looking to try and help out the left or the right back / left midfielder area. Stay wide is also essential, looking to try and hug the touchline, try and create those 1v1 situations, trying to stretch the opposition as much as possible as well. And then for the support runs, I've set it to balance because yes, he would look to, or the left midfielder would look to make those runs in behind and exploit the space. But every now and then, you would see the likes of Felipe Anderson come in a bit more centrally, link up very nicely with Luis Alberto, Vecino, and so on. And I think a balanced approach allows you to do this very effectively. As for the interceptions, it's set to normal, and then of course, the support on crosses is set to balance. This also allows him to stay on the edge of the area if needed, looking to maybe recycle play, or if there is an opportunity to make that back post run, he will look to try and take it with both hands and try and capitalize and score a goal. Okay, so moving on to your two number 10s. Of course, you've got Luis Alberto as well as Felipe Anderson or Isaacson. Both will have the same roles. But for Luis Alberto, he has got a slight tweak and variation to it. He's set to stay forward. Very seldom does he, track back. He wants to be the outlet ball, the creative spark that can look to try and link it very nicely to the likes of Immobile. And I did find that if you set it to balanced, he would often not be in the right positions, especially the positions that I saw in last night's game, where he would hang up the field a little bit more and look to maybe be an outlet for a potential counter-attack. The support on crosses is set to balance. You would see him breaking into the box, and with the players set to get into the box set to 7, that better makes sense. But with it set to 7, it allows him to break into that box very efficiently, very effectively. But if not, if there's, 3 to 4 players already in that area, he can look to hang further back and maybe look to try and create from outside of the attacking area. The positioning freedom for both will be set to free roam, allowing them to drift all over the place, try and link up play very nicely, whether it's, out wide or more centrally, but also trying to pull the opposition defense and, midfield all the way out of position, opening up space for others to try and attack. As for the interceptions, it is set to aggressive, and this does help with the counter press. I did see that the likes of the front three, as well as even the wider players, would aggressively look to try and press the opposition's backline, forcing errors, forcing mistakes, and that's more or less what you're trying to replicate. As for the likes of Felipe Anderson, basically the same role and instructions, except for the fact that the defensive support is set to basic, often allowing the likes of Isaacson or Felipe Anderson to track back very effectively, pick up the extra runners in the midfield. And then finally, moving on to the striker, Ciro Immobile as well as Castellanos, they will not, have any major changes to their instructions when you swap the one out for the other. Both will be set to stay central. Of course, we saw the likes of Immobile sometimes, slightly drifting along the two centre backs, looking to try and attack down the left or the right hand side, but often not drifting too far wide. So I think stay central reflects the best possible striker role for the side, as well as target man. Now, obviously, I did see Immobile making those runs in behind, and because you have direct passing on, even with the target player set to be on for him, he'll also look to try and, break into that space just in behind. So keep that in mind when using the system as well. But more so, you want to use his physicality to your team's advantage, backing into the opposition, linking up play very nicely with the likes of Luis Alberto, Felipe Anderson, as well as the wider players that will be involved in the attack, often looking to be a linchpin further up the field, holding up the play very nicely. The interceptions is set to normal, and then of course stay forward for the defensive support. Even Luis Alberto would sometimes, drop slightly deeper, slightly, and try and help with the defensive outlet. But the likes of Immobile, naturally his positioning is further up the field, and he was told to stay forward for those counter-attacking opportunities. But of course, Luis Alberto would try and link with him. And there you have it, guys. That is how I would replicate the new Lazio system in FC24. Of course, as always, if you have enjoyed this video, please go ahead, hit that like button, comment down below if you like the system as well. It would mean the absolute most to yours truly. Now, in terms of the rating, out of 10, I would give this a 7. I think that sometimes you can be exposed, especially when the opposition whip in those back post crosses. Sometimes the defenders just aren't in the best possible positions, and it can somewhat exploit you. So you need to be aware of that, and it does gripe me when that does happen, especially when you are playing with a left midfielder and a right wing back. The right wing back often drops into the defensive space a bit more, whereas the left midfielder doesn't always do this. So it does provide a bit of an unbalanced system, and I don't overly enjoy that. But in terms of the attacking outlet, the fluidity in the front line, I think it replicates the real life system that I have seen so far very, very well. You guys can let me know down below though if you have enjoyed the system, and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment as well. Until the next time though, I hope you have a damn great day. I'm out.